Last year, Donald Trump promised he would end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. It has now been 120 days since Trump has been in office. He has been an utter failure at stopping the Ukraine war, but how can he even possibly be successful when he is weaker than Joe Biden on Putin and Russia? Last week, after getting played by Putin with his turkey deflection tactic, Trump said the war in Ukraine wouldn't be resolved until he and sleazy Putin got together to work it out in person. Then on Monday, his story changed again. After a 2-hour phone call with Putin, he said that the conditions of a peace deal could only be negotiated between Russia and Ukraine, and maybe with the help of the Pope. Still, the US president has not lost his sense of optimism about the prospect for peace, posting on social media that Ukraine and Russia would immediately start negotiations for a ceasefire and an end to the war. That sentiment was somewhat at odds with the Russian view. Putin only said that his country is ready to work with Ukraine to craft a memorandum on a possible future peace agreement. Talks about memorandums and possible future peace hardly seems sincere, and most likely just another delay tactic for Putin. Putin again emphasized that any resolution would have to address the root causes of the war, which Russia has claimed in the past to be Ukraine's desire to be free. On Truth Social after the call, Trump said that Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations toward the ceasefire, adding that conditions for that will be negotiated between the two parties. But there is a possibility that Trump's latest take on the war in Ukraine could be a sign that the U.S. will ultimately abandon the negotiating table. Later on Monday, Trump said he would not step away from brokering talks between the two countries, but then acknowledged that he has a red line in his head and that he may step away. Big egos involved, he said, but I think something's going to happen. And if it doesn't, I'll step back away and they'll have to keep going. Such a move, however, comes with its own set of questions and risks. If the U.S. washes its hands of the war, as Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio have threatened, does it also mean that the U.S. would end any military and intelligence support for Ukraine? And if that's the case, then it would be a favorable development for terrorist Russia, with this mafia dictatorship government willing to kill their own, compared to peaceful democratic Ukraine cut off from American backing. That prospect is enough to have Ukrainian President Zelensky concerned. It's crucial for all of us that the United States does not distance itself from talks in the pursuit of peace, he said on Monday after the Putin-Trump call. Trump has expressed frustration with both Putin and Zelensky as efforts to resolve the 3-year-old conflict drag on. He accused the Ukrainian leader of gambling with World War III. He didn't invade anybody. In an explosive meeting in February in the Oval Office, and in April said he was very angry and pissed off at Putin after talks continued to stall. Putin aside Monday's rhetoric, it appears that Ukraine and Russia are set to continue some kind of talks, and talking in any form is progress after nearly 3 years of war. It's still to be determined if whether the Russian team will be more than the low-level delegation that traveled to the Turk-occupied Constantinople to meet with the Ukrainians last Friday. Trump is holding out the promise of reduced sanctions on Russia and new trade deals and economic investment as the enticement that will move Putin towards a peace agreement. He mentioned that again in his post-call comments. Not discussed, on the other hand, were any negative consequences, such as new sanctions on Russian banking and energy exports. The U.S. president last month warned that he would not tolerate Putin tapping me along and said that Russia should not target civilian areas. But Putin didn't care, and he kept bombing civilians, making Trump look weak and not willing to stop evil. It's a far cry away from how Trump was willing to act against Syria and Assad, and he bombed Syria for killing his own civilians. The evil of Putin in Russia is even greater than that. After all, it was Putin backing Assad. And where has Assad fled to? Russia. Putin is protecting Assad now. Trump doesn't want to cut the head off the snake, the evil snake. He wants to help Putin in whatever way he can, pushing that help as far as he possibly can without it actually ending his presidency. On Sunday, Russia launched its largest drone strike on the war on Ukrainian cities just before Putin and Trump's call. And Monday's call between the two world leaders makes clear that any ceasefire or peace deal still seems well over the horizon, with Trump's weak responses in favoring of America's enemy. When Trump was asked if he confronted Putin about why he didn't stop bombing Ukrainian civilians when he asked him to, Trump said he didn't confront him on the phone call. That's pretty weak coming from the President of the United States of America. Trump hasn't even confronted Putin on making Alaska officially Russia's territory again by executive decree. Putin said the sale of Alaska to USA is null and void, not valid, and is Russia's land. Trump hasn't told Putin to change the government position and documents back to recognizing Alaska as American territory. That's pretty damn weak and shameful for the United States. Hey Trump, is Alaska America or is it Russia's?